Breaking news. Welcome to today's headlines. Buhari heed to demand from the United Nations Human Rights Council's working group on arbitrary detention of Kanu. So, Kanu can return to his adopted home in the UK. Buhari heed to demand from the United Nations Human Rights Council's working group on arbitrary detention of Kanu. So Kanu can return to his adopted home in the UK. To my dear listeners from wherever you're listening from, please stay tuned as I read today's news. President Buhari, even if the views of the working group are not direct views of the United Nations and may not be legally binding on Nigeria, just do the right thing as their concerns will result in appropriately operating Nigeria's criminal justice system. The message here from the working group on arbitrary detention is for Nigeria to end its arbitrary arrest, punitive detention, and illegal trial of Kanu, which could lead to the Nigerian government being held accountable by reporting Nigeria to the Human Rights Council. President Muhammadu Buhari do not be carried away or influenced by the usual editorial twisting by some Nigerian newspapers that a particular piece of information did not come directly from this or that. And for your information, the UN's formal Commission on Human Rights established the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention with Resolution 1991/42. The working group's mandate was most recently extended by Human Rights Council Resolution 42/2022 of September for another 3-year period. The United Nations Human Rights Council's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention is recognized by the United Nations Human Rights Council to investigate individual cases of arbitrary detention and situations where country conditions have prompted more widespread occurrences of arbitrary detention, such as Nigeria. I still remember in 2020, the overall head of the UN, under which the UNHRC comes under, the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, continued to call on nations to act on human rights. I still remember how in 2018, when President Trump removed America from the UN Human Rights Council, a man known for his weak likeness for human rights, but President Biden and his administration have since rejoined the Human Rights Council. Nigeria is a member state of the United Nations, UN, and has human rights obligations at both the regional and universal levels. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra Laipo, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is being tried on charges of treason by the federal government of Nigeria in a federal high court sitting in Abuja. President Buhari should know that the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Kanu, is now a matter of interest in United Nations circles. President Buhari, the United Nations Human Rights Council's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, has called on the Nigerian government to immediately release Kanu unconditionally and reimburse him with adequate compensation for the arbitrary violation of his fundamental human right. President Buhari, the UN Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, has indicted both the Nigerian and Kenyan government for the illegitimate apprehension, detention, extraordinary rendition, torture, and continued detention of Kanu without due process. Professor Mike Ozekome, senior advocate of Nigeria SAN, Kanu's lead counsel, has repeatedly urged you, as president of Nigeria, to consider a political solution to the Nigerian stated treasonable felony case against Kanu. This plea is especially valid as you have psychologically and ethically stained this court case when, in an interview with Channels Television early this year, you stated that if there is one institution I wouldn't like to interfere with, it is the judiciary. Only in the same interview did you say, but what I wonder is that when Kanu was in Europe, abusing his administration and mentioning too many things, I never thought he really wanted to voluntarily come to defend himself. So we are allowing him to defend himself in our system, not to abuse us from Europe, as if he was not a Nigerian. To my dear listeners, now we've come to the end of our today's news. Please do drop by at the comment section and let's know what your view